ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Pucks on the Patio. This is episode number 6, so we're going on to our second hand. I'm with my co-host here,
Jeff.
and
Jay.
I'm Alex. So welcome back to our show. We're going to try to do another weekly episode. You know, we took off 2 weeks ago, so we're going to try to get back into our normal show, our normal routine. Today we'll be discussing a few different topics. Primarily we're going to start with the Bills. We're going to work our way into hockey. A few things have happened over this past week, and we might have a few surprise topics going on. So the first things first, because we all know we're starting to get into that time of the season with football, we're going to start opening up with talking a little bit about the Bills. They had their second preseason game today where they beat the Denver Broncos 42-15. Can't say anything bad about that, but what do you guys think? Who stood out to you? Anything to say about the game today? Take it away.
I really thought that a lot of the secondary, the kids that came in really stood out. Hodgkins again, Skira. I liked O.J. Howard a bit. I thought that the defensive end, or the line actually looked a lot better, even though we were missing, a guy like Von Miller. I did like Russo's game, Oliver. I think they all look sound. And I liked the way our backup quarterback actually looked. He had a really nice, bounce back week. I didn't catch a lot of the game last week, again, the second half. This week I caught the first half. But I thought Case looked excellent. I know that, he's kind of coming around. He's getting a little bit older. He had a great year with Minnesota in 2017. So I think bringing him in, even Brendan Bean was like, this is where you sign. You want a good contract again next year like Mitch did. I think he'll get that. I think he's going to be great. And even Barkley. Josh goes down. We're running up the score, let's hope. But Josh does have a bit of an injury, or he's ill and he can't play. They definitely have a competent quarterback to go to, for sure. I'm trying to think of all the guys that actually played. I'm trying to think of names, but the team looks sound, very good. I like the new offensive coordinator, what he's doing. I like the fact that Josh wasn't running the ball. They were making holes. Cook was another big standout for me. So the running back certainly did run the ball, but the passing game was there as well. And, from the receivers to the line, to the defensive line, it looked really good. I'm really excited for this year. I'm hoping this is our year. So, Jeff?
Last home game for 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah.
And I think they looked definitely impressive. I don't know if it's a combination of Denver looked that bad and we looked that good, or a little bit of both. Blackshear, the running back, played extremely well towards the end of the game. They had a drive there where they didn't throw the ball at all. All of a sudden, it was all run, and they moved the ball downfield and scored a touchdown without throwing a pass. And lo and behold, the screen pass suddenly is part of the Bills' offense again.
Yep.
I know a lot of the fans are very high on Brian Dable, and we wish him success in his new job. But I think there were some aspects of his play calling that were a little one-sided, a little rudimentary, where he did not really use all the weapons that the team has. The team has. I understand that the NFL has moved away from being a running game. It's a pass game, but you need a running game just as much as in hockey. You need your defense to score goals the same as your offense. You need a running game, whether it's clock management or to keep the other team off balance. And I think this year compared to last year, so far, we're seeing that balance come back into our attack. And that was really refreshing. It was refreshing to see the screen pass again, and it was very effective. You're seeing runs where you're getting 6 yards, 7 yards, 8 yards, 10 yards on first down. Makes life a lot easier on your quarterback and your offense. First team defense, first drive, little disappointing. They kind of let Denver hold the ball for a long time and drive the ball down the field on what was not their starting lineup. So,
Right.
but the defense did kind of right the ship after that. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I mean, the offense was, up there, 9, 10, looked fantastic.
Yes.
Defense looked, I don't want to say average, but they looked okay. They got the job done. It wasn't the standout part of the team, which for them, that's fine. I'm not expecting pick sixes every down or sacks or, just keep the score close. Don't let them into the end zone. And I think the decisions by management that are upcoming, they have to cut 4 players by Tuesday just to get to 80 people on the roster, players, and then from there you've got to cut down to your 53-man roster. They're loaded with a lot of tough decisions because there's a lot of good players on this roster that are in the secondary and even the third level players that other teams are just going to be waiting to see who you cut to scoop up. Like vultures. And it's a shame to lose players, but it's a nice problem to have that you have too many good players, and you've got to cut somebody who's maybe you don't want to, that you might have to. And receiving core looks good. They look deep. Hodgkins looked good. McKenzie made some nice plays. Kumaro made some plays. Again, running backs, without having Singletary in the game, the running backs look deep. So, and no answer on the punter yet because it's such a big deal. Who our punter's going to be?
I love the kid.
We had
one punt
the
today.
entire game, and nice problem to have. But again, let's keep it real, folks. Keep it real because Denver did not start a lot of their starters, so you're not getting a true read on everything that you've got. You've got rookies playing rookies.
Don't forget either. I don't know how much if you watched. I did get the first whole half. And I watched with my dad, and we both noticed, with maybe the exception of 2 times, the quarterback didn't get chased from the pocket. And how refreshing that was to see with the line. Now, granted, we're all playing backups, but that our guys weren't chased, our quarterback wasn't chased out of the pocket. That was very refreshing, to see for once, that they had a little bit of time to make, to set, to look, to make that throw. To even hand it off, that the guys, on the opposing team weren't all over them. I mean, Alex, I know you didn't get to watch it, you worked, but you know how it was last year, how we were constantly being chased out of the pocket.
Right.
So, I mean, actually, and not having most of our starters in the lineup on that offense or defensive line, don't forget, we didn't have any of our safeties, and none of our real starting
One of our
safeties.
starters.
Player starters.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm happy with the way they're going. We have to get in the regular season, play the regulars, a team that's like the Rams, and to really see where you're at. And like you said, Jeff, hopefully not cut somebody that you're saying, oh no, why'd we let him go? Or we're injured, why'd we let him go?
I think you're going to anyways, just because of the standpoint that, you have so many players on the roster, you only have so much room. But overall, I think the most refreshing thing to me was the fact that, we saw some play calls, that we didn't see last year. Part of the idea of having Josh and Diggs and those guys start on the first drive was to get them working hand in hand with the offensive coordinator in live game action at home, where they could at least learn some things and maybe make some corrections if they had to, but at least give Dorsey a chance to really work with Josh in real game action.
Right.
And to see the playbook really open up to to where it wasn't so much about like trick college plays that we were seeing with Dable, or, you know, well, Josh, check down, you've got nothing, go ahead and run the ball, where
Yeah.
we actually saw some traditional plays come back into the playbook. Some of it has to do with personnel.
It does.
And when you don't have an offensive line like we didn't have last year, you know, you're not able to run screens, you're not able to run a running game, you're not able to do some of the things that they're able to do now because they've actually got some beef on the lines, which we've been talking about. And you're finally able to see that. I think the other thing that we surfaced last week that we took away from the game that was disappointing was the number of penalties.
Yeah.
And this week,
Yeah.
It's cut down.
the penalties came way down, and even the ones that they were called for early on in the game, some of them were really questionable. They were really close, borderline calls that maybe in a regular season game you're not going to get. But I think it was good to see the kids, the rookies, the backups, correct a lot of those issues, because as you move forward, those defensive and offensive penalties at critical times during the game can really come back to haunt you.
Yeah, he did. He squashed, you could tell the coach, Sean Durbin, actually, you know, you could tell he was not happy with the penalties last week. I know there weren't many starters, but that's something they definitely want to squash. Your take, though, Al, on a few plays that you've seen your boy Josh making?
Oh, Josh. Well, you know, Josh is Josh, and even on his one of his drives he did, only 3 for 3 on passing, just scored a touchdown, tossed it to Gabriel Davis, and
It's like effortless.
when you're already scoring against on the first drive, that's good. But I think you both summed it up pretty good. There's some good shining moments. There were a lot of outstanding players. We had a look at some players. The game cleaned up, and granted, it's preseason, and we're playing a lot of backups, so
Right.
it would just take it with a grain of salt. We know everyone's all Bills Mafia, and we're ready for the season, but it's a feel-good day. So and no injuries
Absolutely.
either, really. So
And just one other thing I
Just
want
for
to
them.
bring up, that you're getting a lot of interaction on the sidelines, and I know the word has been used ad infinitum here in Buffalo of late with both sports franchises, but the culture among the players, they really seem they seem really tight. They seem really close. They, you know, even when you see, you know, one of the rookies or first year players come off, the vets are like the first players over to them to say, hey, you did a great job here, good job, or pat them on the back, or, you know, a lot of interaction among the players where they really seem like they're having fun.
Well, look
Yeah.
at Shaq Lawson. I mean, you know, he was fired up. I mean, I loved it.
oh yeah,
I know him coming back to Buffalo. It didn't bow well where'd he go? Miami, and he came
Miami
back?
and the Jets. So
But
left.
he was fired up. You could tell this man wants to prove something this year. So Jeff, yeah, the culture just runs right into like the players that have been here that maybe are coming back.
Or overall, I mean, just to see their interaction with Von Miller, one of the newest Bills, of his interaction with the guys that have been here, and the embracing the culture, and really, again, wanting to play for each other, wanting to do their jobs and do it well. You know, it's not just a paycheck for some of these guys, and they understand that, you know, this is the situation they're in. You might not get it again.
No.
Yes, interesting conclusion. Well, as we finish off this discussion with the football side of things, just a reminder that we have one more week of preseason football where the Buffalo Bills take on the Carolina Panthers, and then in the following week is when the real fun starts, so early September. But moving on from football, because I think we've said everything we need to say
About a preseason game.
about a preseason game, let's dive a little bit into hockey. And today is actually one of the last days of the World Junior competition. They were doing the medaling today. It was the Czech team versus the Swedish team for the bronze medal game, which was at 4. The Swedes won. Tonight at 8 is the Canadians playing the Finns. By the time you see this video, the game will be over, so you already know who have won. But as we wrap up the tournament, what stood out to you? Is there anything you want to say about maybe the individual teams, certain players that stood out, some of our prospects perhaps in the game. So what's your take on it?
Slovakia. I watched that team. A lot of heart. I wouldn't say a lot of skill. Heavy team. They were playing the Swedes, and I think I got like a period and a half. A lot of guts. A lot of, you know, I guess pride. They don't have a ton of skill.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of stood out to me because it's just, I don't know, they almost seem like that blue collar team. Jeff, I mean, you watched it with me. They just, tried to play a heavy game. They lost. But our prospects, honestly, I didn't get to watch a ton of games. I know Yuri Kulik ended up with 2 assists, I think. Was it Canada or against in the semifinals? Rosen, I think I seen a little bit more of, a little bit smaller, skilled, quick, has some nice speed, nice shot. I do agree with some of the other Twitter feeds that I had seen that he does need to work on his board compete, but I think it's just because he is a little bit younger, he's a little bit smaller. I think that's definitely something he could learn in juniors or in Rochester between the two. Sometimes it's just fine tuning, and if you got the speed and the skill and the hockey sense and the shot, you're halfway there. So it's working on the compete in the board battles, your defensive game. Kulik, I did find it interesting that the best player he played with on the top line was 2 years older than him, and I believe he's a Montreal draft pick.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't remember the guy's name. So he's already on that top line, and this, 2 years younger than the guy that's supposedly their best player at 22. So Kulik is not far behind. Again, I don't think you'll see him in Buffalo this year. I mean, I just don't. I do think he would probably be a nice candidate for Rochester. And as when they were asking Seth Appert, he did say most definitely you will see him in Rochester. So I do think out of the draft picks this year, he is the closest to being ready. More of a man, plays a man's type of game. Oh, and we also noticed he was the first one back in the defensive zone, which, if you go into the pros, scoring goals is great, making beautiful passes, but you need to be defensively responsible as well. So that was my take on it for what I've seen.
The juniors tournament has its ups and downs. There's a lot of amongst a lot of the teams. There's a lot of choppy play.
Yeah.
Obviously, the kids are raw talent as far as their skill level. Yeah, they've all played in junior, or they have 2 or 3 years behind them, or whatever they have. But obviously not at the level of pro hockey. But a lot of good signs out of the Sabre prospects that were there.
Yes.
And it's a good opportunity for them to go and learn and showcase on the big stage, maybe play against some players that they might not ever see again, or they might see on a different team. As far as our prospects, that Rosen stood out. I think he's either one of the tops in points, or he's close to the tops in points for his team.
Yes.
First team power play. Johnny on the spot has his office already set up in that low face-off circle where he likes to score goals. Definitely a decent skater. Kulik, same thing on the top line at a very young age. Very good vision on the ice. Very good statistically as far as where he's ending up, even when he's away from the puck. That's where you really gauge where a player is farther along in his development at that age, is where he's ending up away from the puck, recognizing the play is going back the other way. As you said, almost 99% of the time he's the first forward back in the defensive zone, covering the front of the net, where he's lined up and he's the winger, but he shifts back to that natural center position to play defense, and definitely is showing some really really good signs. It's unfortunate Matthew Savoy couldn't be in the tournament because of his
Right.
injury, because that would give us an even better look as to where he belongs. Any of these guys that are going to come over and they're going to make, if these teams think they're going to just drop them into the NHL, they're not ready for the NHL.
Absolutely, that's what I was going to bring up. Actually,
there might be a
very unfair to think that.
I think maybe one of the two of the goalies might be close for juniors.
Right.
Who was it we watched? The goalie for Latvia
And the Czech Republic.
and the
The
Czech
Czech
Republic.
Republic was very
both goalies
good.
were phenomenal.
He was already playing in the WHL, so he's
Yeah,
you
he
can
was a
tell
little
he's
bit
already
more
playing
advanced.
North American hockey.
Right. So some of those guys are a little bit farther along because they played in the ECHL, but overall, not anybody that's gonna. There's no Mario Lemieux there that's gonna
No.
make an
No.
immediate impact in the NHL. And I think one of the other points that you had brought up while we were watching the game is the amount of 5-minute majors that
Yes.
were called.
Frustration.
No, it wasn't a matter of frustration.
Summer frustration, I think.
But a lot of the direction that the league is taking, and then what ends the IIHF is really trying to mirror the calls that are made in the NHL.
Yeah, well,
They're trying to do that more to get the players ready for what they're eventually going to face in the NHL, even though it's an international
I
tournament.
get it for the league point of view, but some of these teams were clearly frustrated. And just like an NHL team,
Yeah, but
Oh,
the
yeah,
idea was that it was the boarding calls, the elbows, the shots to the head.
oh yeah, well you got it.
That's
You
where
have to.
that's where the 5-minute majors were coming from, and I think from the standpoint of watching the game and wanting to see skill and wanting to see players be able to perform without having to deal with goonism, I think it's a great thing.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
it
yeah,
is,
it should be
it
about
is.
your. Not saying you don't need tough guys. Well, it blows my mind when I see all these Facebook messages, Twitter. Why don't they just drop Rosen in the lineup? I mean, why would we? I'm sorry, he's not there yet. You cannot force these kids to just jump in and go, well, now you're defensively sound. Now you're going to play against a man twice your size on the boards. It's just not going to happen. People need to stop with this.
Well,
Like a quick fix. No, it's not a quick fix.
we've seen so many players come along in the NHL just very quickly, where they get drafted and they drop them into the NHL and they struggle.
Yep.
And they either end up asking to be traded because they're frustrated
Yes.
with where they're at, or they completely disappear from the NHL altogether and they become failures. They don't become the players that they could be.
Right.
And circling all the way back to our organization, the idea of not rushing these young kids into the lineup, in other words, saying, we have a glaring hole in goal in Buffalo. Glaring hole, okay? And it's yet to be seen how well our goalies are going to perform with Comrie coming in. But it would be fantastic to have a Portillo come in this year, or it would be fantastic to have a Levi come in, and then what happens?
Yeah.
You destroy the player. You lose their confidence. You get a situation like Carter Hart where they've got a mental issue now because you've driven them into a hole in the lineup that you have to fill that they're really not ready for.
And honestly, wouldn't you want a more developed Sabres team, let's say in a year or two, with a more developed defense for these kids to step into, instead of having a kid back up kids? I mean, where would the logic be in that? So I think them taking their time is, as long as they sign, I don't care. Gotta sign that entry level deal,
I was going to make 2 points from your discussions, and you both made very good points. The first one was, with the tournament itself, a lot of the young players, a lot of them aren't even drafted. They're not eligible. They're 17, they're 18. They haven't played. Many of them haven't played in any form of North American hockey. They're playing in the Swedish or junior or Finnish or whatever junior club they're playing for. And it's a look at the future. It's a look at seeing where they are, and whether it's your prospects or not. So down the road, maybe you see next year's draft. Oh, I remember this guy. He played for Team Latavia, and he was one of their best players. Or so it's just an interesting look for people that enjoy the sport of hockey, that want to see what the future of the sport is. The second point, which was back to your point, which you mentioned, you beat me to it, was how I noticed this every game I watched of the World Juniors. There was a 5-minute major and a boarding call and a game misconduct. Every game, every single game, didn't matter which team it was. So it was really interesting to see that, because back to your point of how they're kind of setting these kids up to kind of learn it when they adjust to it to get to the NHL level. They kind of have that mindset already, and maybe it's also a kind of a representation of how they're being developed overseas with their individual countries and their clubs. So maybe there's a little bit of leeway, or there's a little bit of learning involved.
Well, it's a definite learning curve as far as gauging a good play against being aggressive or being, you know, trying to take something away from the other player that, hey, you just can't.
Yeah.
They just have that much more skill than you do, and you're in a competition situation that you're not able to match.
Mm-hmm.
The Latvian team was a prime example where they just did not have the skill up front to compete with the Swedes. And it was, I'm going to take the body, I'm going to take the body, and I'm going to take the body. And there's nothing wrong with that in the sport, because that's what we love about the sport. But looking at the timing of when you do it, how far away is the guy from the boards?
Mm-hmm.
And as we mentioned when we were watching the game, conversely, the player who's taking the hit,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
we watch players who he has the puck on his stick and he's not even looking around. And you have to, this goes to a point Craig Reve has made several times, that the onus on a hit is sometimes just as much on the player who's getting the hit
The
as the player
receiver.
who's giving the hit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be aware of your surroundings. Now, a penalty is a penalty.
Right.
Yeah.
If I cross-check you in the head, or I hit you high,
Mm-hmm.
it's a penalty.
Yeah.
But if you're turning and now you're turning into my check that's coming, some of that is on you.
It's about
That's
awareness.
what I mean. I would have thought even a couple in the tournament were a little bit questionable, and I know they go back and review them and make sure it's a 5-minute, but some were kind of like the guy just putting himself in a very, susceptible position
Mhm.
when,
And just
you
quickly,
know, it should be learned that, sorry,
and
it's
just
true.
quickly, how do we feel about that? I mean, where they make the call and they go, it's 5 minutes upon further review, and then they review it.
I think that's good. I think they're starting to do that in the NHL, weren't they, on 5-minute
Yeah.
majors? I think it should, because from, when the game is played that quickly, or you're just, how many times have we seen the ref's arm go up late because the guy's down on his knees and he got hit into the board? So I think the video replay, they do it with everything else now, offsides, the guys in the crease. Well, if this is crucial and it's going to cost you a player in a 5-minute major, I think it's great that they're, I think it's almost needed to go back and look at the video again, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a game changer for sure, and it should be important, and it's part of the sport. But on this flip side of it, the way I kind of am, don't abuse it. The way that the league is starting to abuse it, with every goal has to be reviewed, every offsides, the coach's challenge on every goal.
Well,
This wasn't a goal, that wasn't a goal, and human error is part of the game. So I think it's a great ideal for player safety, because that should be first, is player safety and player awareness, and taking that into account and holding people responsible for what they do, which is another topic another time about the league. But I think it's important. I think they should definitely put that in the game and make it a necessity.
I mean, not to interject here, but every goal is reviewed, but I know what you mean. When the coaches have too much control of controlling the game, stopping and starting it. This one was, went in some guy's off some guy's ass. Oh, he's offside. It's like they've actually taken the refereeing and, the video review upstairs away from them and given it to the coaches. And I have never, I could see it if there's a no goal in your crease, your foot's in the crease.
Don't say that.
I can see
don't
it
bring
if
that
there's
up.
goaltender interference, but and the coaches have, and we've said this a while. The way a game will be going and going and going. You're getting the momentum, and wait a minute, I want a challenge. I think they were offside, and just the thinking of the thoughts, whether it counts or not, and Reve and Buron have said that as well, just slows down the whole game. And if you got a momentum going, just too many hands in the cookie jar.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put it that way. And it does infuriate me. And every goal is looked at by Toronto. It's looked at video review, you would think. So, I don't know.
Putting the penalty in there definitely helped. In other words, if you stop the play for a review and you get it wrong, and you're going to get penalized.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
But I don't know. I guess I watched hockey in the 70s, and, it would go in off somebody's head, their ass. I think the only thing they had at the time was couldn't be above the goalpost, the crossbar, and it was disallowed. But other than that, I'm like, come on, who cares?
Well, I think...
You could take grinders and power forwards out of the game then. They make their living in front of the net.
I think the idea of the review on goals is a different aspect than...
I know,
the
but it's the
penalties.
same. But if you're going to do it on every little thing, then I would think on a 5-minute major and in the NHL they would continue to go back and look at the video. If it could change the momentum, take a player out of the game for the whole game, I think, it's
Especially
crucial.
for these guys in the NHL that make a living out of cheap shots. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
Well, steering back to kind of our discussion, I know we're kind of getting off course there. Trust me, we'll have a week where we discuss the league and penalizing players
wait.
and yada yada. We'll get into that.
Especially when they're going against us.
Yeah. But other than that, does anyone have anything else to say about the World Juniors, what we saw, or are we good to move on?
Yeah, I think we're good. We'll be looking forward to seeing our kids eventually, here or there.
Here or there. So, in other news, the Sabres made another signing last day or so. They signed Tyler Kozak. Tyson.
I can't say the Bills player, so that's
Like
all
the
right.
chicken.
Tyson Kozak. He's a young forward. He was drafted in 2021, a 7th round pick. He more likely go back to the WHL where he was playing last year. Your take on this, guys? I know a lot of people are kind of like, he's an extra player. What's your take?
I believe he was a 7th round pick in 2021. They think he could have kind of like an Olafson type situation, kind of a later pick, a little later bloomer like Olafson. I think he didn't impress so much early on, but it really turned it on towards the end of last year. I think in 68 games he had 36 goals, 30-something assists. He was right around a point per
he was in
game.
that range.
Without my phone, or I really don't know the exacts, but I seen on Twitter today most people are high on him. I did read a short article. Good hockey player. Again, a lot like everybody we're drafting. Good hockey sense, good analytics, good shot. I'm sure, again, if he's a lot of like the other draft picks, it's working on both sides of his game. Actually, in his situation, he is a better defensive forward, they thought, for a while. So it was more of, you got to work, I think, more on the offensive development, where defensively he did well. He was a good defensive forward. Then he started to come on offensively towards the end of the year. So it was just funny. They did an article on him, and then the Sabres signed him within a day or two. But again, another prospect. Can't wait. Get him, let him finish in juniors. They said maybe next year he'll be up in Rochester, maybe 2 years, but I'm all for those prospects.
Yeah.
Every organization, whether it's your pro team or your American Hockey League team or wherever, you're going to need third and fourth line guys.
Yes.
Not every draft are you going to draft a number one center and a star player and a first team all-star defenseman and a Vezina Trophy goalie. Every roster needs its plumbers.
Yeah.
And whether this player develops into a plumber or he's a third line winger, I think the depth in your organization is important. What I find really fascinating about it in a broader scale is that the organization now has almost signed every
All their
single
2021.
draft picks
Yep.
that they've made in the last 2 years, which is a real departure from the organization of the past, where they would draft players, say, hey, we're high on this guy,
Yeah, we
or we're
would be
high on that
re-signing Bob
guy,
Corkum now. So.
and then they just disappear off the radar. You never hear from them again. And then they turn up in somebody else's organization, like Brandon Hagel, who was drafted by the Sabres.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden he turns up and he's playing for Tampa after he got traded from Chicago.
I know, and everybody has some that get away, but
Well, yeah, but
I
what
understand.
I'm saying is that overall it's a different philosophy for the organization
It is.
and management to sit there and say, we drafted this guy. Well, we had every intention on signing him if we drafted him, and whether it's, again, your top line winger or it's your fourth line plumber, we intend on having him within our organization. And I think that from that standpoint, especially the way that they analyze the players,
Yes.
and they really look at them and they say, good player, not player, no, draft him, even if we have to trade up to get Peterka, whatever, blah, 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 blah. That these are guys that they, and in a broad spectrum, it shows a real commitment to say, we really do want you in the organization.
Well, it does, and I want to touch back at where he was picked 7th overall. It's kind of like
Seventh round.
Seventh round. I'm
Seventh
sorry. Oh my God, the 7th
Very
round
late.
was comparable to Olofsson being picked late. Not saying he's going to be an Olofsson player. What they thought was he'd be an Asplin type player. So again, touching on the third, fourth line type player. Maybe not a big goal scorer, but has that defensive minded, but with that offensive touch. So,
But then when you sit there and you say, well, we traded Marco Scandella to St. Louis and we got a 6th round draft pick, and everybody's like, oh big deal, a 6th round draft pick. Those players can and sometimes do develop into regular NHL players that you need in your lineup, and you sit there and you go, wow, this really turned into something.
Yeah.
It's all draft capital and not just throwing it away in trades or whatever. It does amount to
I must
something.
say I had a lot of 7th rounds on my mind lately. Maybe because most of our players have been picked 7th.
Or they get 750,000.
There you go.
It's,
7 in every number.
It is interesting how you mentioned that and how, a 7th round pick, most of them don't see NHL.
Exactly.
But to have the commitment to sign this player, to be part of the organization, and we can see him down the road, even if it's 2 or 3 years he's in Rochester.
Exactly.
So having that plan in place, it's good to see,
And is it such a bad thing to say he's good enough to play in Rochester, he's a consistent performer in Rochester, but he's just not good enough to make an NHL team?
Right.
Is that so terrible?
Right, but I mean, we're so early, with his development.
Right.
But I guess what it is, that's a gem for maybe somebody else to come up that is ready. So overall, it's just being patient, and I know people get tired of hearing it, but we're already hopefully going to start seeing those kids come up this year and contribute. So depth is what you need, and not giving it away like Tim Murray.
Yep.
Well, I think we've talked about Tyson pretty good. Why don't we move around?
Beat a dead horse.
Beat a dead horse, why don't we? Move around about what's going on around the rest of the league. It's been pretty quiet for the most part. I know the last couple of weeks we were talking about where's Kadri going to go? Is it Colorado? Is it the Islanders? Well, surprise to all of us, he ended up signing with the Calgary Flames. 7 years, $7 million, $49 million if my math adds up. And then on the flip side of that, Calgary shipped off their good friend Sean Monahan to the Montreal Canadiens along with a conditional first round pick. Just throwing it up
2025, I
in
believe.
2025. Thank you.
For nothing.
For nothing.
Yeah.
So, guys, what's your thought on that? Because I know we were kind of waiting around to see what happens with Kadri.
Well, I guess I'm glad he didn't go to the Islanders, and
Yeah.
not because I think he would have helped them, but now they really are gonna suck bad. I can't wait to doing circles. I'm glad he went out west. I've always been a Nazem Kadri fan. I think really talking more about Calgary is it has made them, I think, a wee bit better. You are going to get a consistent contributor, maybe not the big points of a Johnny Hockey, but I definitely think if they do make the playoffs, and they should, he will show up. And I think he's also the physicality that they missed out on Kachuk.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, they're going to have Manjapan on the wing, and then Huberdeau, who was easily a 100-point guy. I think Calgary's actually in pretty good shape. Now, the flip side is that him and Huberdeau, Kadri's and Huberdeau's contracts are going to expire when they're 36 years old. So they didn't do much as far as getting young, but I don't blame Calgary for pulling pulling the trigger on it. Not that it was a trade. They got him signed. They got him locked up. I think $7 million is about what he's honestly worth.
Mm-hmm.
When I heard 9 and 10, I thought that was crazy. I'm sorry. I know you're doing the E, but I think on a team that's honestly desperate for centers now, with Gaudreau and Monahan gone, they had to do what they had to do. So they'll have him. They'll have Lindholm, who's a very good center for Calgary. He's not, like
He's
a
their top
mega
center.
superstar,
He'll
but
be their top center.
they're
more than
gonna.
likely.
I think they're going to be maybe a heavier team. In all honesty, I think it'll fit more of the mold that they've been wanting to do when they play teams like Edmonton. I think he will terrorize maybe McDavid a little bit when he's playing Edmonton. So I think Calgary fans would be happy with this signing. And again, it doesn't bum me too much that it's $7 million, the 7 years. But I mean, in today's hockey, you do either give term or money for free agency. So I still said it could have been us. You could have beat Toronto 4 times a year, but you had to go and do your thing. So
He wanted to get paid.
yeah, exactly, Jeff.
Table for future discussion, NHL contracts for old players.
Yeah.
Because we can talk about the defenseman for Pittsburgh.
Wow.
Can't think of
Johnson.
his name. No. Letang.
Yeah,
Oh,
Letang got a big contract.
His contract is going to end when he's 40 and all
Well-
that. So we can talk about that another day.
Now we
that
don't.
teams are
Not to
doing that.
interrupt you, we don't know what Kadri's contract is. Maybe it's front loaded and it goes down to $4 million by.
It's still the term for an aging
It
player.
is.
It
It
is.
is.
But
It's rough.
the deal was done with the Islanders. For Kadri to go to the Islanders, the deal was really done. The problem is that the Islanders could not free up the cap space fast enough that Calgary could to get him in there.
Sorry.
If you're Calgary and you're saying we took out Monahan, who wasn't going to play because he had hip surgery,
Right.
Johnny Gaudreau, who's a great regular season performer, but he's a small forward and doesn't show up in the playoffs, and Kachuk, who doesn't want to be there, or how good can he be, or whatever.
Right. A lot
And
of
it's-
question marks.
And instead, you brought in Mackenzie Weegar, who's a better better defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
You brought in
Forgot about
Jonathan Huberdeau, who's a more consistent winger,
Yes.
And
And a leader.
and you brought in Nazem Kadri, who's got a better second line center than Johnny was,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
because Lindholm's their top center. I think that Calgary actually got better.
I do. I agree.
You know,
I do.
I do.
Subtraction, addition by subtraction. I think they're going to continue to be a difficult team to play against.
Yes, heavy style.
Whether they're going to be able to continue it long term, because their team is aging, and
Yes.
I know we've said that a couple times, and the guys that they brought in are already older, 29 and 30, 30 or 32.
32.
I forgot how old Kadri is. I mean, they're older. The only one who's young, and he still hasn't signed, is Uyghur.
Yeah.
But it does move Calgary into a short window span where they're really going to have that team where it's going to be that much more competitive.
Well, they're going to have a short window to do it. It's going to be
Now,
make it or break it.
Kadri's contract isn't disgusting. To your point, it's not $9 million.
No.
So if they go 2 years,
Yeah.
and they say, okay, he's just not, they can still move him.
Right. Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
that door is still open. Huberdeau, his numbers have continued to go up every year he plays, even though he's getting older. He continues
he's
to
28. I
produce.
think they're both around 28, Jeff. So.
Actually, Kadri is 30.
Kadri's a little older.
He is
Is
older.
he? Okay. Well,
And also to your point, you know, thank you for the Islanders for doing absolutely zero.
yes. Oh my God.
Zero
they got so much
signings.
work.
Zero signings, zero trades, zero free
You don't
agency.
know what Lou's got up his sleeve.
Well, Lou's got an empty pant leg now, because now
yeah, a lot of the good free agents are dried up unless it's trade.
if I'm a Calgary fan, I'm excited about my team.
Yeah, I am too.
You know, I think my team got better. I think it's going to maintain the same regular season consistency. Whether it transfers into the playoffs, we'll see. But if I'm a Calgary fan, yeah, I lost some good players, but I brought some good players in, so I can be happy about that. Whatever Johnny's number was, maybe Kadri will take that.
Well,
and
and
fans
again,
can just take over the name.
I mean, and again, Jeff, leading up to your point about being stoked as a fan, you know, Calgary too is in the same situation. Al, maybe you can touch on it. If you don't want to be there, like Johnny, like Chuck, goodbye. I mean, I'm sorry, who is not replaceable anymore? And we face it a lot in Buffalo. They don't want people here that don't want to be here. And I tend to agree that, you know, for whatever reason, whether it's family or, you know, I know in Canada, way up north, it's hard to play there. I get it. But it takes a real commitment and a real, you know, team first effort, I think, you know, and just, I don't know, players are people. And, you know, so I can kind of feel, you know, Calgary's hurt there for a while, for sure.
Well, when you lose arguably two of your franchise players,
Right.
and as Sabre fans, we can relate when you lose Danny Briere and
Drury.
Chris Drury. It's a hard thing to stomach.
And then Pouty Jack.
And then, you know, what did the Sabres bring in after that you know was supposed to satisfy the fans and satisfy the team?
Yeah.
Again, hopefully it leaves a window open for the Sabres to move into a wild card spot or a playoff spot, or even, you know, be farther up in the standings and say, oh, look at that, we're picking 12th or 13th in the first round instead of in the single digits. You know, I think that it all bodes well. Just as a quick side note, which Canadian team do we think has the best chance at making to the Stanley Cup Finals out of the teams?
Just thinking, going through the database, I'd probably say it has to be, to me, either the Flames now or the Oilers. It's got to be one of those two teams, because the other teams that
Yeah, I tend to
are,
agree.
they're either not playoff teams yet,
Battle
or
of the Alberta, baby.
they're just gonna crumble like
Yeah.
Toronto again. Sorry,
I mean,
Leaf
yeah,
fans.
I mean,
but,
not all Leaf fans are douchebags either, mind you.
but Edmonton's.
but,
I think
yeah.
Edmonton will still be a solid team, and just because of the people they have there, the forwards they have there, and I think Calgary, as you guys have both said, they're going to be a better team, if not the same, and I can see them being another playoff team.
I do think that these moves, and I know it looked like doom for Calgary fans, looked bad when it kind of went, but I think in the long run they are going to be a better team for it, and I think they're going to beat Edmonton. I think that they got better defensively, believe it or not, and just leadership, defensive play. I think they actually have a chance of beating Edmonton and moving on, you know.
And we
So,
can all agree that it's not, Toronto just doesn't rate up there because they
No.
actually got weaker in goal.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that too.
Not only that, I mean, I'm sorry, when that dude on Facebook gave them an A minus in defense, dude, what are you smoking? And us a D. And it ain't even really about us. I was just like,
We just took one of
I'm
their
done.
D. How
I'm
good
done.
is their D when we
I
just
just-
took one of them?
it's a team defense, and yeah, they look better, but they're another top heavy team. No lower real bottom six.
Enjoy Matt Murray.
You know, it's.
Well, you
I
know,
don't think they're going to be much different. I'll be honest.
these Canadian rankings where they rank all the teams, all I can say is it's like when Buffalo plays a game in Montreal and every penalty goes
Yeah,
against
that's
us.
about it.
It's,
You know, we won't know till we know.
We
So
don't
I
know
guess
till-
it's
yeah.
we can only go by on paper and what's done in the past. But you'll be able to say, I'd say maybe 10 games in the season, which I can't wait to see how Vegas looks either. We've been talking about it and can't wait to see what Jackie Boy does there in Vegas now. So who's he going to blame next, you know?
It's interesting to see how Calgary has really kind of changed in the last month. How it was doom and gloom and
Yeah, exactly.
oh my God, our team is over, and now it's we have some hope. We have
Yeah.
their GM is trying to say, okay, it's not the best decision, I would say, but it's a decision that makes sense for them, and it brings them
Yeah.
some
and a lot of
Absolutely.
it
Some
was out of
clarity.
his control.
yeah.
It was.
Not
I mean,
was.
he
Not
did
to-
his
not
best
to
for
throw him
Gaudreau.
He offered
did.
Goudreau and
A lot of
Kachuk
money.
a lot of money.
Money,
It wasn't
yeah.
about money. And I'm someone that will say, like, I really don't want to play them. We only play them twice a year, being out west. But kudos to Calgary. I don't
And beat him.
and beat them too those two games. But kudos to Calgary. We'll see what happens.
You guys
in the
still got
season.
sweet jerseys.
And
so,
yeah, the Flame
yeah.
jersey is still awesome.
Yeah. Not to throw the GM a life preserver, but a lot of it was out of his control.
Oh, it is,
Both
absolutely,
Gaudreau leaving
absolutely.
and Kachuk going, I want out. That was really out of his control. So.
Well, if we got any Flames fans watching, drop us a comment. Let us know what you think of what your team did and what you think of the whole escapade that happened there with Gaudreau and Kachuk bailing on you, bouncing.
Anyone from Calgary, Alberta, watching us? Expand.
Maybe you can root for us in the East.
Expand
Vote
on
for-
the West
vote
Coast.
for us in the East. We'll vote for you in
There
the
you
West.
go.
You know, we both got sweet jerseys, so.
Now we're getting
Yeah.
towards the end of our show this episode, and I had a surprise topic because you introduced it the last episode. So, and of course, you just mentioned partially of my surprise topic about jerseys. So the NHL is supposed to come out this year with another set of reverse retro jerseys. Every team is supposed to come out with one.
Yeah.
So, nothing has been officially leaked, except supposedly two. The Vancouver Canucks were supposed to come out with the Johnny Canuck look, and then the Islanders think, I hope
The
it's
hell's
true.
a Johnny Canuck look?
It's like a lumberjack.
It's like a lumberjack. And then,
Oh.
thank you God, the Islanders are supposed to bring
Why?
back the Fishermen. So my question to you as Sabres fans is, who do you think, we've already done the butter knife look on the last one. What do you guys think will be the next look, or what do you think they should have on the next jersey?
Of
Is it-
ours?
Yeah, of ours.
Well, I heard it's going to be the Royal Blue Slug. I'm like, I don't really know. I would like probably the red brought back, like a red with a gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, more gold and black, kind of like you have with the head is fine. I don't want the slug. I hated the slug.
The banana slug?
No.
How about you? What do you think?
The
these people
concept
can.
of the reverse retro jersey is great, and I hope they do pursue the goat head, the red,
Yes.
in some form or fashion, more so than the slug. I wish the NHL would kind of loosen up a little bit as far as what they allow teams to wear. Not to the point of where they're like soccer, where they have a different jersey for every game, but I appreciate the variations, but it doesn't necessarily have to fall in the line of a reverse retro or anything like that. I think teams should be able to open it up and really be able to interject some ideas into the jersey theme that represents the team. In other words, the real blue and gold, the royal blue and gold for the Sabres that we've all come to know and love throughout their history and we've returned to, there's some aspects of it that they could tweak it. I've seen a lot of fan renderings and ideas for jerseys that are not that far off, but they're off enough that they look really sharp. Where it was the blue and gold, and then it had the horns from the red and black era, but they were in blue and gold, and it was, a lot of them were really, really sharp. And the Rochester Americans have done a fantastic job of their jersey nights. The Bills jersey, the
Polar Bear
jersey. Yeah, there's so many
Shamrock.
fantastic.
I know.
There are so many fantastic and fun jerseys, and even the Sabres, where they do the St. Patrick's Day warm-up jerseys.
Yeah, that's cool.
Wear them during the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Why
Wear
do
them
they gotta
during the game,
switch?
even if it's just that one game.
Right,
Wear them during the
absolutely.
game. It's fun. It's exciting. It's interesting
on.
to the fans. You want to do, at the end of the season, they do the jersey off my back promotion where they give the
I got an idea.
wear your St. Patrick's Day jersey for the game, and then at the end of the game, give them away to the fans.
Why don't we have a game where they wear Bills jerseys? Would that not be cool? Seriously.
Well, I mean, that's
Flip-flop,
flip-flop
this
them.
is kind of like what the Bandits are doing tonight with the hockey night,
Yeah,
and they're wearing
exactly.
The Bisons.
Bisons, sorry, where they're wearing the Sabre jerseys. They're Bison jerseys, but they have a Sabre theme. There's so many different fun things that you could do that would interject it, and then, like I said, involve the fans.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to wear this St. Patrick's Day jersey one game.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, some lucky fans are going to get my jersey off my back that I wore during the game.
So with all the sweat and everything.
Hey, all the more for the collector.
It's a memorabilia.
It's memorabilia. It's all money.
That is true. I could never. I'm like, why are they just wearing them in warm-ups? Why not just wear them in a game?
Well, you can do when they do cancer awareness, they can do the tape on their
pink
stick.
or the pink jersey.
They
maybe?
can do the tape on their stick.
Right,
or,
right.
when they do
or
hockey.
I'm thinking of breast cancer.
Yeah,
but,
or when they do the hockey inclusion night, where they they do it for the whole month, and they wear the rainbow tape on their sticks, and they do whatever.
Right.
Wear it for the game.
Yeah, why can't you? It's going to be a home game. The other team is going to wear, I'm sure, their dark or their whites, right?
Yeah.
So as long as you're not close to what they're wearing, and even that, they can wear their dark jersey. It don't matter.
The door is open in some respects where, like, the Sabres wear, like, red hot white nights where they wear the away jersey, which...
The whites are sweet.
But I mean...
Whites at home.
Which...
Yeah, go back to the
Whites at
old
home.
days,
Not
eh?
to interrupt you. Whites at home, please.
I just want to make this point that with the jerseys conversation we're having, how Vegas wears those, oh my god, those hideous
helmets.
gold C3PO gold helmets, and Vegas wears the tinfoil chrome. LA wears the tinfoil chrome helmets. Is that any worse than wearing a different jersey during a game?
Exactly, it's so hideous and gaudy. It's like,
stay away from those gray jerseys, LA.
I know,
my God.
hideous.
They're horrible.
They're gross.
They're horrible. I mean, why would you want to merchandise that? Please.
I know.
Well, anything else to add, or?
Not really. I'm getting really pumped for football and hockey.
All right.
And the summer is winding down, folks, so enjoy, be safe,
Just on a quick note, Alex, I don't know if you want to discuss, because you're our resident expert on the Bandits, about free agency and players that they brought in or that they lost.
Yeah, I can kind of discuss that a little bit. I know we haven't really discussed the Bandits lately. It's been kind of slow. We've been bummed, of course, about them losing the finals, but the Las Vegas Desert Dogs had their expansion draft a few weeks ago. We had a lot of really great forwards to keep. So we ended up losing, unfortunately, Connor Fields from Bishop Timon, local boy. He wanted to play here, and then he flipped out. The good thing is lacrosse. It's a very open league. There's only so many jobs, so he might find his way back here. We also lost Kevin Brownell. Brownie, unfortunately, he signed with the New York Riptide, so he is no longer a Buffalo Bandit, which means we'll have to make a new assistant captain this next season. However, on the flip side of things, the good thing is that Great Dane Smith got franchise tag. He'll be back. Our core players are back. Sweeney also re-signed here in Buffalo. And what everyone was kind of dreading and sweating that, oh no, Matt Vince is going to retire. He said he's going to come back and play, and he really wants to win it this year. So
Cool.
our
Awesome.
starting goalie and our goalie situation is still sound. There's a lot of still free agents going on around the league, but in terms of the Bandits, most of our core, with the exception of a few, are back, and free agency just opened this week. So,
And just to throw you a couple curveballs very quickly, for the Bandits and for the lacrosse league, there's no real junior league where they develop players from or they pull players from. So if our goalie at the end of this season decides, hey, I'm done, they have to basically scour the league or scour the other leagues,
yes.
the field lacrosse, to find somebody that they feel is capable of doing the job to bring in.
Mm-hmm. It all depends primarily, as you said, it all depends primarily on where they go from there. There is a NLL draft, and that's where they primarily take players from college, because that's where a lot of them are drafted from, is college field lacrosse. It's an easy transition from field to box lacrosse. And then, as you've also said, the CHL, the PLL, they're both outdoor lacrosse leagues. That's where a lot of our Buffalo Bandits jump from. I'm sure anyone in Banditland knows they jump from the Bandits to the Chaos, which is a summer league, and a lot of them play together. So they can always sign people over. A lot of the guys, they move around. They play in different leagues. They're part of different tribes. They play for different organization, the Iroquois First Nation or the Blackfeet lacrosse team. So there's always going to be an opening somewhere. And I'm sure the GM has his plan in place to kind of sort things out. I'm sure he knows eventually that he's going to have to make a change. So.
And now that Brownie's gone, and he's been on here and on defense for a long time, I know, with the Bandits.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see maybe the possibility of a fundamental shift of how they play defense? In other words, maybe they want to be a little bit more aggressive. The way things went for them last season, do you see maybe that they're going to have some kind of change in the organization as far as how they address defense?
I think with the way things were last season, them losing the finals, getting so far, with their faction, I think the biggest problem for them is finding that defensive system that worked. They had a really potent and a really strong offense, and they could score goals all throughout the season. And for them, it's going to be a shift of who do they have on their defensive transition. Steve Perolo is a great defensive player. He's the captain of the team. I think if you put anyone with him, the defense will at least suffice. It's going to be a top 5 defense in the league. But I think with them and their shift, they really have to look forward to playing not so much conservative, but they have to be a little bit more aware. They have to play back more. They're guys that are on their second transition unit. They have to come back and play a stronger system, and maybe they have to be a little bit more cautious with their chances, where before maybe they were 2 for 6 on the power play. Well, now they got to be 4 for 6. So they either have to compensate on offense and keep the offense going, or they're going to have to focus primarily more on blocking shots, taking away chances. The one thing that they were really good at was taking away the sweet spot in the middle. They play a lot of teams like the Toronto Rock or the Georgia Swarm. That's where they score a lot from the inside. So if they can eliminate that, it might help them in the long run.
Good.
So that's my take. I'm kind of a lacrosse expert.
He's our resident bandit.
So I'm the resident bandit guy. So as that season starts, we'll give you updates on that. But I think that's it for episode number 6. If you guys would like any suggestions, any topics to cover, any comments, please, as always, we'd love to hear some feedback, some constructive criticism. And with that being said, have a good week. Thank you all very much.
See you soon. Take care, folks.
Bye-bye.